Welcome back for today's Business Matters. As always, we have Don Ma here with us. Don, happy Monday. How's it going?
Yeah, happy Monday to you too. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. Can't complain. What you got for us today?
All right, so let me give you an update right now on Disney. So what's happening there is major shakeup at the company. It's changing its board chair for the fourth time in 3 years. Today, Disney announced Chairman Mark Parker will step down at the end of the year. Morgan Stanley CEO James Gorman will replace Parker. Starting in 2025, Gorman will be tasked with finding a new CEO following Bob Iger's departure. Gorman called choosing a new CEO critical. It's unclear what led to the latest change in Disney's board chair. But Gorman said the timing reflects progress in Disney's decision to replace Iger. Iger returned as CEO last year after a brief hiatus. Disney said Iger's replacement will be named in early 2026. And oil prices rose nearly 2% today, recouping a bit of last week's loss. This is as markets worry about supply from the Middle East. So with no sign of tensions cooling as Israel is expected to retaliate against Iran, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is headed to the region today and will make another push for a ceasefire. One expert says that the crude sell-off was over the market trying to reach equilibrium between continued unrest in the Middle East and slowing demand. Meanwhile, a ban on U.S. investment in artificial intelligence in China could be coming soon. A government posting states that the rules for a postponed ban are undergoing a review. And this comes from an executive order signed by President Biden that aims to keep American investors' knowledge from aiding China's military. Investors would be required to notify the Treasury Department about certain investments in AI and other sensitive technologies. The Office of Management and Budget is conducting the final review. Also, the Biden administration said today that it would provide up to $325 million to Hemlock Semiconductor for a new factory. This move could help Democrats political edge, help them give them a political edge in the swing state of Michigan ahead of Election Day. The funding would support 180 manufacturing jobs in Saginaw County. Republicans and Democrats were neck and neck in this area in the past two presidential elections. There will also be construction jobs related to the factory. The Commerce Secretary said that the funding came from the CHIPS and Science Act. And this act was signed into law by President Biden in 2022, and it's part of a bigger industrial strategy that the campaign of Vice President Kamala Harris supports. Moving on, Elon Musk is giving random registered voters $1 million checks if they sign his petition supporting the U.S. Constitution. Is this legal? Here's more.
Tonight's person is John Dreyer.
Billionaire tech magnate Elon Musk is giving voters $1 million checks every day until Election Day.
All right.
Thank you.
All they have to do is sign his petition supporting free speech and the right to bear arms. Saturday's winner, John.
Thanks, Elon. This is great.
Sunday's winner, Christine.
It was so exciting. Like, I don't win things. And to win $1 million is crazy.
The petition asks registered voters to pledge their support for the First and Second Amendments. It's open only to registered voters in Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and North Carolina. In other words, the battleground states. Pennsylvania registered voters will get $100 for signing the petition.
Pennsylvania is it's the linchpin in this election.
Elon Musk explained Saturday his goal is to promote the Constitution, which he says will protect America against tyranny.
How do we get people to know about this petition? Because the legacy media won't report on it. Not everyone's on X. So I figure, how do we get people to know about it? Well, this news, I think, is going to really fly.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro questions the legality of Musk's petition.
It's something that law enforcement could take a look at.
The DOJ Election Crimes Manual says an offer may be illegal if it is intended to induce or reward the voter for engaging in one or more acts necessary to cast a ballot. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 says whoever pays or offers to pay either for registration to vote or for voting shall be fined not more than $10,000 or imprisoned not more than 5 years.
Clearly, this appears to be something that sort of crosses the line.
Former Pennsylvania District Attorney Matthew Mangino says Musk isn't directly paying people to vote for Trump, but there is an implication.
He's asking people who are registered to vote to sign a petition to say that they're committed to the First and Second Amendment. We know that the Second Amendment, is often a strong issue for Republican voters.
Mangino says Musk may wind up paying a small fine, but if he continues after being warned, the penalties could increase.
And airlines are betting on European getaways. Delta, United, and American have shared their flight plans for next summer. They include more flights to key European cities and the addition of new locations like Nuuk, Greenland, and Catania, Sicily. This will ease some congestion in popular tourist-packed areas and allow travelers to experience other parts of Europe. Data from the International Trade Administration indicates that the number of Americans flying to Europe is up 9% this year and has increased even more since before the pandemic. The U.S. election is just over 2 weeks away, and a recent Gallup poll says the economy is the most important issue for voters. And in Arizona and Massachusetts, they'll be making a major decision about minimum wage. Here's more.
I feel like it's an unnecessary adjustment to a system that's working just fine.
Prop 138 is one of the most important propositions that come down for restaurant owners in the longest time I can remember.
Federal labor law allows businesses to pay tipped workers less than the minimum wage as long as customer tips make up the difference. In November, voters in Arizona and Massachusetts will decide whether that's a good policy to keep intact.
As a restaurant owner, it protects us on managing budgets, labor costs, which have gone up greatly. Also with the inflation and food costs, it's one of our key factors on maintaining price controls. We don't want to have service charges. We don't want to have to increase our menu prices. The consumers want us to keep our menu prices fair, and they don't want to pay service charges.
The amount tipped workers make varies by state. Arizona employers can pay their tipped workers $3 less hourly than other workers. Voters will decide whether to approve a measure to change the minimum for tipped workers to 25% less than the regular minimum wage, as long as their pay with tips is $2 above that minimum.
I feel like Arizona Proposition 138 is going to make a clean system much more opaque. It's going to make it harder for servers to really know what they should be making, and over time they're going to be making less.
The ballot measures reflect an accelerating debate over the so-called sub-minimum wage. Advocates say this is essential to the sustainability of the service industry. Critics argue it pushes labor costs for employees to bear and leads to the exploitation of workers. Lindsay Ruck has been working for tips for more than 20 years. She says tips make up a significant part of her pay, bringing it up to approximately $60 an hour.
Tips are the majority of my pay. Honestly, I don't see a paycheck. All of my paycheck goes towards taxes. So in terms of money I take home, it's 100% of my pay. In terms of overall, it's probably 80%.
The measure is supported by the National Restaurant Association and co-owner of Harold's Cave Creek Corral Restaurant, Dan Piaquadio. Supporters of the measure warn that if employers can't rely on tips to pay their workers, there will be reduced hours, lower employment, and menu price hikes.
Prop 138 not only protects our current tipping system, but it also protects minimum wage workers for guaranteeing them $2 over minimum wage as long as the proposition is passed, which is key.
Members of America's so-called sandwich generation are being put under more pressure and for longer. The term applies to adults who are responsible for caring for their children and at least one adult, often an aging parent. One estimate found this group has grown to at least 11 million in the U.S., and the number is expected to surge as the life average expectancy continues to increase, and this is having a negative impact on careers, quality of life, and finances. An AARP report shows the average age of a sandwich generation caregiver is 44, and a growing number are men. This is a critical early to middle stage point in careers and critical time to save and invest as well. Both presidential candidates are trying to lure this group with supportive policies since they make up a significant part of the electorate. And mining company BHP is in London's High Court today facing a lawsuit over a 2015 dam collapse in Brazil. Claimants are seeking up to $47 billion in damages, making this one of the largest lawsuits in English legal history. Take a look.
One of the largest lawsuits in English legal history begins on Monday. That's as mining giant BHP faces a multi-billion-dollar claim over Brazil's worst environmental disaster, the collapse of the Mariana Dam in 2015. The dam contained mining waste, and its collapse 9 years ago unleashed a toxic wave on the surrounding area. It killed 19 people, left thousands homeless, and flooded forests. It polluted the length of the Doce River, which is considered to be sacred by the Krenak indigenous tribe. More than 600,000 Brazilians, 46 local governments, and around 2,000 businesses are suing BHP, which owned the dam alongside Vale's joint venture with Samarco. Claimants are seeking a combined $47 billion in damages. BHP, the world's biggest miner by market value, is contesting liability. It says this record London lawsuit duplicates legal proceedings and reparation and repair programs in Brazil, adding that nearly $8 billion has already been paid to those affected by the disaster through the Renova Foundation, which was established in 2016. The miners also said on Friday the Brazilian government is discussing a nearly $30 billion compensation deal. The London High Court hearing will last up to 12 weeks.
Walmart.com is now delivering tiny homes for about $15,000. They will deliver it to NTD Sean Marshall looks into what it actually takes to get one of these tiny homes.
If you've ever wanted a cheap tiny home delivered to you, well, now Walmart.com has you covered. For just under $16,000, you can own the Cherry Industrial 19-foot by 20-foot expandable prefab house. But there are several reasons slowing down the expansion of tiny home living. Zoning laws and extra costs are a big factor. For the Cherry Industrial, it's advised to use a forklift to remove it when delivered by trailer. Other extra costs can include owning the land, installing utilities, and hiring contractors to pour foundation. Most banks won't finance them with conventional mortgages because they aren't attached to land. Instead, they must be financed with private loans, which can have higher interest rates. Tiny homes promote sustainability because they cost less resources to build and run, and they encourage minimalist living, say experts at Palm Paradise Realty Group, a professional concierge real estate service. Their small spaces force homeowners to be strategic and thoughtful about what they buy, promoting the concept of mindful consumption. Some cities are partnering with tiny home startups, companies specializing in homes under 400 square feet to tackle housing shortages. Although some say a one-size-fits-all solution shouldn't be the only solution. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And just quickly before I go here, market Dow Jones Industrial Average and S&P 500 closed lower today. So today's declines were broad actually, with almost all 11 major S&P 500 sectors in the red. Investors are also looking ahead to the U.S. presidential election, with polls showing chances improving for former President Donald Trump, who's the Republican candidate. So as the election date approaches, even small changes in tight polls could drive swings in market sentiment. All right, that's it for today. For Business Matters, back to you, Fiona.
Don, great reporting as always. Thank you. Those small, tiny homes, very interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would be open to living in one. It's about 400 square feet, so you got to really consider what you really need, because there's not enough space to put everything. But for the price, I feel like, I can pull it off personally.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Walmart is the one distributing them.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think Walmart's got it all, huh?
Even houses.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Don. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.